I really enjoyed the Marvels, so congrats on the film. And I thought Dar Benn was such an interesting character because even though she's a villain, we see her side. We see that she's been wronged and she does have positive attributes. She's a natural leader. She's trying to rebuild her people. So we see both sides. As an actress, what did you find most intriguing about that character? Because you're not just playing like a generic, super evil villain.
Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate that. And I love your background that you have right now as well. Tiana is just flying up out of your head. Um, I think what I found intriguing was everything that you just said. Quite honestly, I I was playing a character that had a lot of scope in terms of what we don't know about them. And it was kind of up to myself and Nia and the writers to kind of fill in the blanks, I guess. And one of the first things that really struck me was her humanity, how kind of traumatized she was by this event that Captain Marvel is at the center of, um, when she's younger and much more kind of hopeful. Um, and I think, like lots of villains, there's always that sadness there. Lots of people say, anger is kind of suppressed sadness. And I think there was just so much in her that was still so sad about what had happened to her people, and that it was translating into this vengeance. That I just found that so intriguing. I find the Kree as a people so intriguing. Their story feels so relevant. And now, there are heartbroken people, there are colonized people, there are people that didn't really have anyone to really protect them. And the fact that she's this civilian who tries to do that, I just think is so remarkable. And yeah, like I said, so human. So there was a lot to be intrigued by there, a lot of human qualities outside of all the incredible, space stuff that was yeah, really just really intriguing and so fun to do.
Yeah, and I was curious, how was it kind of finding the tone for your performance? Because you're not over the top, but there's this great like fierceness to the character that I really liked in all your interactions. So how was it kind of finding the right portrayal of Dar Benn?
Thank you, Tyler. I mean, I probably was very over the it was very over the top in some bits. A lot of it actually came through my physical life. We're so lucky and blessed on these films if you are someone who has to have a physical storyline. We have these incredible stunt teams who just surround us months before you've shot anything. And so going into the stunt gym with them and working out how to wield my hammer, understanding why I use it, how I use it, understanding how she stands, how she uh, throws a punch, how she takes a hit, was sort of really incredible ways into her psyche, I guess. And getting the marble shoulders down, which is like these like super shoulders. Um, Again, was a big part of feeling like a villain essentially and like a badass. So I would say the physical life really was a huge key in for me. And then the makeup and hair, the most amazing makeup and hair teams who just absolutely transformed me. And we had lots of conversations about how Dar Benn should look, because obviously it was this kind of gender swap from the comics, and also there was all these blanks to fill in terms of costume, hair, and makeup. So as it started to build, I started to understand more and more and more about who she was, how I was going to play her.
Yeah, it definitely comes through. You definitely are a badass in the film. And you mentioned the comics. I was curious how much like prep you did of reading the comics because that is such a rabbit hole with just decade after decade of history. So how was that?
It was really necessary to get a sense of it, if not only to get a real handle on just how beloved they are. You could go into these movies and be like, oh, these are the movies, not the comics, you know. I happen to have a lot of comic book self-professed nerd friends, and the commitment and the effort and the time that they put into the worlds that those comics create, you know, I just sort of learned first and foremost to truly respect that source material, truly respect the fandom that is surrounding that source material. And so that was like the first step. And then I did have to familiarize myself with Dar Benn just from the comics, because that's the only place that that character appears. There's no real like reference for Dar Benn at all outside of them. So I read those. I have now like a really great Silver Surfer comic where Dar Benn appears, and I wouldn't say I familiarize myself with everything. That wouldn't be honest, but enough to just truly understand the landscape that I was in. And of course, Captain Marvel is such a huge figure in that. And then, you know, more recently, Ms. Marvel. So, yeah, it was about getting a really great scope, but more than anything, just respecting them as source material, I think was a beginning point for me, definitely.
That's fantastic. And this is a very unique role for you as well because you and your fiance, Tom Hiddleston, are both in the MCU. How special was it to share, that professional connection? Because I don't think we've had a ton of MCU couples like that.
I guess not, right? I don't know. It's very special and very bizarre. I think bizarre in the best way possible. Like, you don't plan for this kind of thing, you know, but I think any couple who have an understanding of each other's work, um, I don't know, just have a real like privileged vantage point into what the other person has experienced and what they've gone through, and it creates empathy and understanding and connection. So I think we're just very lucky to sort of have this connection where I now know what it is that you know, he does behind closed doors on those sets. And I think any couple benefits from you know, serendipitous things like that. But yeah, it is pretty unique to both be villains in like a major franchise, I guess.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I saw in a previous interview that you shared some advice that he gave you. Do you two usually go to each other for advice? Because obviously you're both great at what you do, but I could see that being kind of weird stepping on each other's toes. So I was just curious how that dynamic was.
It's a good question. I think we do really well at keeping work and life separate, and I think anyone in the acting profession does well to do that. Um, you know, leaving the work on the stage or on the set, I think is very healthy to sort of have a very three-dimensional and you know, I don't know, flourishing sort of personal life, whether you're a couple or whether it's friends or whatever. So I did obviously ask him what he thought about, you know, me doing it when we started. And I have shared the advice that he gave me. I just said, you know, what do you think? What do you think? What's your experience been? Um, and you know, to repeat myself, he was like, you know, what you put in is what you get out in these films. if you put in 100% and you're able to truly just take it for the incredible opportunity that it is, you'll have an amazing time, and that energy will come back to you, because those are long days on those sets. It's not a joke being part of an ensemble who's making a film like this. And I think that was a huge lesson that I came back with every day. I was like, wow, this is a very, very specific type of work. This is a physical work. This is a mental endurance that you have to exercise, as well as saying the lines in the right order on these movies, and so it's been a wonderful window into a world that I honestly have the hugest amount of respect for and love for now, in a way that I just couldn't have from just watching the movies or the shows or reading the
That's
comics.
wonderful. Yeah, that's really wonderful. And then my last question for you, you share so many great scenes with Brie Larson throughout. What just stood out about her as a scene partner? She's obviously so talented, but you two really worked off each other well.
Thank you so much. Look, Brie is hugely experienced, and I think that's a wonderful thing if you've just started doing these films, is to be opposite someone who absolutely knows that world, uh, physically knows the world, sort of energetically knows how to be in that world, because it's a lot. We're all these adults in a sandbox. We're like playing, and you can get quite self-conscious or in your own head. And so Brie brought this great experience to be across from. She knows exactly how to bring that world to life, the costume, the set, the intentionality behind the line. So I just learned a lot from observing her. And she's great fun, and she loves a laugh, which makes things very light. And I think when you're playing mortal enemies, you kind of need that release as well. You couldn't kind of go around scowling at each other all day. That would be really I think that would be mentally quite draining. So yeah, I'm so glad you think we have great chemistry, because it was great to be able to play this unbelievably powerful woman's arch nemesis, and have there be like a real lovely mutual respect there.